Chris. How are you?
I'm really good, Rob. How are you?
Good.
What's the crack like with you?
That's a nice mask you got there.
Yes, this mask has come all the way from China, would you believe?
Yeah.
These were the first masks we got because we didn't anticipate that the world would stop and that we might need something that might be a tad more sticky to the face. Realistically, this is for me to help you not get it, but we know that now, don't we?
Yes. Thank you very much for doing that.
You're very welcome. I feel.
And there's hand sanitizers on the walls here for you, because I know your hands are generally dirty.
They're always dirty, and not only that, I've hit upon a problem.
What's that?
So early on in our career, I can't drink my.
Drink your coffee?
I did see someone who had a little latch on theirs, and they pulled a string and it opened. And
Chris, what's more important, your health or your coffee?
My coffee, Rob. I'm going to have to take it off. I can't for the life of me. Woo! Do without the.
Thank you.
God rest the nurses and doctors. That is a tight, warm ship to be in, isn't it?
My gosh. So we're here today.
Yep.
And
you sounded like a minister or a priest. We're here today, parishioners.
We're here today to bring together our top 5 photographers.
Do you know what? You and I both know we're sitting in these ratings, and I don't want to brag, but we're pretty high up the world ratings at the minute. Of course, that could change at any second. But what I'm thinking is, rather than doing podcasts, we should do church. We should do a cult. The Church of Rob and Chris. Just think of that, Rob. Followers.
The Church of Agitate.
Money. Nice cars.
Maybe.
Yeah, I will not rule it out. If I'm slouching, Rob, at any point, do let me know, because whenever I'm at home doing this, I have my camera set up in a very particular way that it's not below my chest, so I can let myself go. Look, you're concentrating, Rob.
Well, I'm just grabbing my top 5. Today we're here to do our top 5 photographers.
I couldn't.
And in a couple of weeks, we're going to have to prove why they're our top 5 photographers to each other. Serious critique.
Okay, no problem. No problem whatsoever. Mines aren't your typical top 5, I would say.
I can imagine.
And the top 5 was a top 20. And then I literally printed out pictures of people's faces, put them on cans, and got my son to throw a ball at them until there were 5 left. So that's where we are. I let
it was very scientific.
I let fate and gravity take control of my constructive life. Now look at us, Rob, on our phones.
Yeah, well, I'm going to pull up my top 5 here.
Are you on your phone?
Well, they didn't come through to my laptop for some reason.
Oh, I love it when a technical glitch hits the D-man, because it's usually my place, but not at all. Today is Rob's day.
My day.
For messing up. And of course, the good thing is, Rob, we haven't been drinking, which is nice. So the dynamic might be slightly different.
As far as you know.
As far as we know. I had 2 cheap tins of cider that I had in my hands, and I thought, they're 6%, it probably would be too much to do that and drive, I would imagine. Yeah. So I put them back in again.
Good for you. So I'll start with my first.
Okay.
My first, I think he's the best street photographer.
I think I'm going to say.
I don't even like to use that word street photographer, more of just a straight life photographer. Classic black and white.
Okay.
Probably, outside of Ouija.
Are you going to give me a clue as to the age, the date, the era? Are we talking?
I think he passed away in the 70s.
Oh, he's dead. I know who you're going to say.
Who do you think?
I think you're going to say Martin Parr. Is he still alive? He's still alive. He's still alive. I've made a chronic faux pas there for my career and our podcasting history.
No, I would say, outside of Bruce and Ouija, I think Gary Winogrand,
of course, it's got
is the epitome of that sort of lifey street
I have to say, you could never go wrong. You could open it up and throw a stone at it, and you would hit a good image for sure. And his attitude is different than good old dear old Bruce's, as we know. It's not as it's
not as aggressive.
Not as smash and grab, I would say. No. Smash and grab. You know, I show people a thing called Genius or Asshole online about Bruce, and it's him. It's like a 5-minute, 7-minute thing. Him walking through the streets of New York, being interviewed. It's brilliant. Everybody,
I think I've seen that one.
Everybody who watches it is just the jaw is open. You know, anyway, but I think, I hear what you're saying. It's a good first pick.
Well, who's your first pick?
Well, now, the thing is, Rob, what do I do? Is it like we're playing trumps? Is it, trump cards where, you've got a V8 and I want to hit you a V12? Or am I content just to throw out
I think they're all strong on their own merits, and I don't think they can be compared.
I've went for a slightly different approach to mine, as in they are well known, but I've went in a kind of a how have they affected my practice type way. So my first, who do I go for my 5 out of that? I'm going to go for Richard Billingham.
Richard
Billingham, who did Raise a Laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Now, the reason for that is, as you well know, that the photo book Raise a Laugh, the work Raise a Laugh is just, for me, is one of the finest pieces of work to be made. I've been learning stuff about it in the last 4 months. I wrote him an email. As you know, I wrote him an email because I thought it was a good time to chat to people whenever they're locked in. And I found out some stuff about the work that changed it slightly. And I just find it so interesting that he was a painter. He fell into photography in a sense. The snapshot aesthetic that he talks about or that he uses, but yet, he said he doesn't want to get stuck in an aesthetic. And it kind of fluctuates from his landscapes to Raise a Laugh to Zoo. And Zoo is feels more snapshotty again, it's medium format. But the work, every time I look at it, it's fantastic. And with regards to, I was listening to a thing in PhotoWorks, an interview from 2007, and it was about how he made the work and how the work was, I didn't realise this, half the work was kind of, I wouldn't say amateurish is probably the wrong word, but there's 2 ways the book was put together, stuff that's been more thoughtful and stuff that was kind of just taken on with that snapshot aesthetic really in play. Every time I look at it, I feel inspired. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm coming from stuff that's inspired me, I look at and I'm like, okay, I feel like I could make work around that. So Richard Billingham, that'll be a shock to people. Of course, there'll be people throwing tomatoes at the screen. I'd imagine at some of my ones. But anyway, Rob, what's next?
Another black and white artist, well, known for his black and white. I think he's probably the first to really expose the whole blood diamond, and that whole black market mining in Africa sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Just incredible images, just gritty, contrasty.
Ethical.
Yeah.
And who it is?
And who is it?
Salgado.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what can you say? I mean, for a contemporary photographer, his work is always meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, it really feels meaningful.
Yeah. But he doesn't do any of that anymore, of course. He now only photographs wildlife. He doesn't photograph any humans.
Was that real?
Yeah. He has a rainforest that he's taken over and runs. And he,
that's right, yeah,
for some
him and
reason,
his wife.
Yeah, he decided that those images and that work, I think it was something to do with the aesthetic of them, that they were so beautiful and so powerful that they didn't. Some people thought they didn't marry up with the. Whenever you look at those images, you're blown away by all the. It's by the flatness of it, I suppose, by the surface of it. You're like. And I think, I haven't read into this a lot, which we'll do in the next few weeks. I think that didn't sit well with him. I think that he kind of, that end of humanity wasn't working. So he left and went and only does, this has changed now in the last while, only does animals. What do you think of that? Or landscapes and animals.
Yeah.
I don't think he does a thing anymore. I think, imagine I was wrong. Imagine I was just speaking with confidence about absolute nonsense, which we could do.
Who's your next one?
Well, Rob.
I'm glad you totally filled in the blanks on my second one.
Well, I didn't mean to.
No, that's great. That's great.
No, I just.
Who's your second one? Maybe I can fill in the blanks.
Right. Well, all I'm doing is the only reason I knew it is because I was reading the thing about ethics and it came up, and I just thought that's actually interesting because I would never have. You'd imagine that he just went slightly quieter because of age and everything else. Okay, I'm going to go for Bertien van Manen.
Oh,
Dutch photographer.
Yeah.
Now, why am I going for Bertien? I'm just reading this. Born in 1942. There you go. Her work, Moonshine, that deals with the hillbillies in America. You know, she goes over, she embeds herself. This is way before people were doing this sort of stuff. You know, a single lady going over and embedding herself in a family, in a community, and making work that takes it beyond the cliche. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, so whenever I was early on, whenever I was looking at doing the traveller's work, Bertien was kind of kept flagging because, you know, the work she was making in Russia and China and America, and it just was like, it was a really good approach. She didn't, the photographs weren't, you know, the dirty-faced kid. There are dirty-faced kids, but it's not that cliched work. Another thing is that she was the person who really not reinvented, rejuvenated, is that the word? What it says here, renovates, but that's not the right word, somebody's put that in wrong. Documentary photography. So she was kind of for me, she's the grande dame of photography. And I spent time in her company a couple of years ago through Belfast Exposed. And it was two-day education. You know, it was like a mini masters, you know, everything from pricing to approach, you know, and the work she was making then was just on a point and shoot, Pentax, I think it was. You know, we were driving, she'd stop the car, get out, take a photograph, but get back in. And that freeness, you know, that she, you know, she'd worked for folk and stuff. She knows that.
Sorry?
She'd worked for, you know, she'd worked all the big jobs. You know, she's really, really renowned, but was very comfortable. I'm not sure, 70, whatever age she was, you know, picking up a point and shoot and going and making work. And also, we swam together in the Irish Sea. So I had to pick her. But she was awesome. She's tour de force. Her work, if you look at it, if you look at it now, if you didn't know who took it, and it was in a gallery wall, it would look fresh, or in a book, it just looks fresh. There's nothing dated about the whole thing. So Bertien van Manen, number 2.
This is a really difficult list to do. 5 photographers.
Geez, I honestly, I think I just changed one when we sat down.
Yeah. I mean, I'm now at the point where I've got 7 in front of me, 8 in front of me that I just can't pick between them. Yeah. But again, I think it's another black and white artist, this time fashion.
Okay.
And he does black and white fashion, black and white portraiture. Mm-hmm. He's Italian, and the stuff, it's all butter.
Okay.
It's all butter. It just melts. It's just so gorgeous. His large format work, his Polaroid work.
Alive or dead?
Yeah, he's still alive.
That's alive. Who?
Paolo.
Okay.
Paolo Roversi.
I can't tell you nothing about him.
No?
No.
Beautiful, beautiful work. Just, I mean, you might be able to compare him. He's the Italian Albert Watson.
Okay.
But he's even more out there, like just a little softer focus, a little more blur, a little more grain, a little more free-flowing.
And still making work.
Pardon me?
And still making work.
And still doing work.
Christ. At what? 70? 70? 60? 70?
Oh yeah, I'd say he's got to be close to 70 now.
Okay.
But just beautiful, like daylight, his daylight work in Polaroid. Oh.
Beautiful.
Oh. Just amazing stuff.
This is a free
Type 55, you know, like.
This is an education for people. This is free education for people, Rob. I don't care what anybody says.
Hey, this is just people that, I'm not saying these are the top five. These are my top five.
Who could say who are the top five photographers? It's so subjective.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I went on to the world's...
You could pick 5 architectural photographers.
Of course. Yeah,
you could pick 5 fashion photographers and just forget about everybody else.
Do you remember, I was thinking about doing people who had made images. I went onto I can't remember what site it is last night. I came across it. I'd never seen it before. And it's basically the 100 most important photographs taken.
Yeah.
And you would weep. You would weep looking at the stuff. It's the falling man and the little girl covered in napalm. Every one of them is a kind of a... this one's Jacques Onassis.
Iconic.
They're all iconic photographs, Neil Armstrong on the moon, all that sort of stuff. But the photographers, you don't necessarily, like the falling man, I didn't know who had taken that. That iconic image of the guy plummeting down.
Oh, off the Empire State Building, off the Twin Towers.
Yeah, so there's 90% of the photographs, I couldn't have told you who the photographer was. So I kind of got lost last night for about 2 hours, going in and looking at these guys, and I was like, maybe I might just do these iconic, and then I was like, it's not for me. The images in it, I was thinking, are some of these guys, you don't want to say one-hit wonders, that would be unfair to the career, but obviously they've made an image and it's went worldwide.
Viral.
And and it's now in that cage of 100 things. Now, for me, how do you pick? I can only pick, I picked with my heart, and that was kind of, things that influenced me. And is it my turn?
You're on number 3.
Okay, who do I go with?
Sorry for that tangent.
No, tangents are good, Rob. I think that if we do nothing else, we do it. You know what we should have done? We should have printed out big pictures of our houses so we could have them behind us so people wouldn't quite know what was going on.
Green screening?
And a big reveal at the end. Big reveal where we tear it all down. Okay, I'm going to go with John Davola. Okay. And essentially for Chroma, the book is just, I can't get over it. I just can't get over it. I can't get past it. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The way he, again, back to the conversation with Brad, I don't know John, I know his work. I've never heard him speaking before. The way the work is presented, the way he talks about his work, it's not just about the image for sure, and there's loads of stuff going on in the background. But whenever you look at the images, they're so adventurous. They're so full of fun isn't the right word. Experimentation, I suppose, is the right word. Whereas there are these, it's kind of like a trip. It feels like a trip when you're looking at it. Now,
do you think he and Todd Hito?
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of sort of that field. Do you think he inspired Todd?
Yeah, I think honestly, John Davola has inspired so many. Like I now keep finding pockets of stuff that it's all fitting into place. There's an artist in Ireland called Jill Quigley, who's an incredible, she did her master's there. She's an incredible artist. She did interventions in cottages up in Donegal. And this, for me, there's it feels like there's a small thread of John Davola through that work. You know what I mean? Now, whether that's the case or not, I was talking to Leah about it last night. I don't know whether that's the case, but do you know in your head the way you make, I always say to people, if you're making work, isn't it nice that you take Davola and Burtynsky and fuse the two of them together and go out and try and do something. Sometimes to try and do something that's slightly new or slightly more adventurous or outside your comfort zone. So whenever I'm seeing people now that I see work and literally just, there's people that you look at and okay, that's a direct link to that work. It's a kind of, it's not homage to it, but I think Alex Soth is very good at that. But yeah, I think for me, his work is sublime. The website I've talked about before, it's so incredibly 70s, 80s. You can go and download low-res images. And it's not for any cool reason. It's because at the time, whenever it was made, some people needed to download low-res images. It's just the way it was. But I think that actually, whenever you look at it now with a different eye, it's just beautiful. It's clever. You know, I mean, you can really play with the whole thing. So, John Davola. I'm scared of, look at me, I'm scared of touching me.
Brush your mic. My fourth pick.
Fourth!
Okay, my fourth pick. I've actually...
You're changing your mind a bit.
I had never heard of him up until about 10 years ago. Yeah. And he was brought to my attention after I did a bunch of series of images down in the Salton Sea and across the desert, Mojave Desert.
Lovely photographs. Right? And the plane graveyards, that the ones, no?
And that was Arizona. And then I also did a series in Vegas, in Nevada. Yeah. So somebody had mentioned that my Salton Sea stuff was very reminiscent of this person's coverage of Salton Sea. And his name is Richard Mizraç. Mizraç?
I picked names also that I could pronounce. That was a big part of my picking.
Mizraç. So anyways, he's well represented. Yeah. Like he's
American.
Lots of gallery work, lots of stuff. And if you look through his stuff, it's very much like that. It's color work, a lot of dilapidated, and then there's a lot of just empty void spaces, like big dunes, not even golden, but just beige dunes, sand dunes with a soft blue sky, without going all Pete Turner. Just a really soft, subtle tones and things.
So I was going to say, is it it's a visual link to your stuff, or is it's what you shoot? It's the subject matter. So it's more that kind of...
The subject matter. Definitely not the look. The look. My look, when I was going through that phase in my life, I mean, that look was so photoshopped and so over the top.
Yeah, but Rob, these are nice things to talk about, because I think, you know, whenever we talk about phases, you know, I know that I hit phases pretty regularly. You know, it's like I do something and I look back on it. And this is why I love Instagram, because you can do it at a flick. You know, you can go back a year, or even Facebook, you know, a memory comes up and you're like, did I like that? Do I like it? I do like it, but I'm not there anymore. I'm somewhere else.
But one thing with all those, the entire desert series that I did, I've never looked at them in black and white.
No.
They've always been color for me for the past 20 years. Yeah. Now, I don't know how legitimate this is as something that you do, but I'm, with being in lockdown and everything, I think I'm going to go in there and I'm going to convert some to black and white just to see what they look like.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's kind of like Rear Window.
Revisit them and reprocess them.
But you think in that, you know, think of Rear Window, you know, the Hitchcock, you know, your leg's up on a plaster, you have a pair of binoculars, and you're looking through your own work, and you do see it from, you know, you can turn the binoculars around the other way and look at it, you know, in a completely different way. Like, I have been going in and repurposing work. You know, I've worked that I made for a series to do with the Brexit and the border, and I'm plunking that into something else now. And I think that's okay. I think as long as, I don't think you have to take, I think the purpose and the look of something can definitely fit across. You know, it's not like I would, you know, if you buy a suit, I'm really bad at metaphor. Is this a metaphor? If you buy a suit, you just don't have to wear it to a wedding. You could wear it to a funeral as well. Do you know what I mean? You know, but I love nothing more than finding work and cropping into it or changing it. And I think that, like, God knows, it might actually work better in black. Do you know what I mean? It might work better in black and white. It's my fourth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go with Joe Spence. Okay. Now, I've been talking about Joe Spence's work a lot whenever I do teaching. Mm-hmm. The phototherapy side of Joe's work is, for me, is incredibly important for people to look at, to go and look at her work. That's not even looking at how she moved feminist photography in the 80s. You know, it's the work is so...
How she did what, sorry?
Moved feminist photography forward. Photography. Yeah. Now, I don't want that to sound arsey, but remodeling photo history, 1981 to 1982. Now, for those of you who don't know about Joe's work, Joe got cancer and died, and she kind of reclaimed her body back from the gaze of the doctors by using the camera. Now, if you go on and look at the work, if you imagine work made, she lived 1934 to 1992, Christ, can you see that? That kind of isn't very long. She was a commercial photographer, kind of worked her way through, and then started making this super important work. And I wouldn't even say in the world of British photography. You know, it's way, way beyond that. So I think that we'll talk about it more in depth and we'll have a bit of time to actually talk about Joe's work at length. But I think if you go in and have in your head, you know, something that you think it might look like, you'll be really, 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 really pleased with the work you look at. It's really contemporary. Mm-hmm. It's really contemporary, but also there's a real strength to the work. It makes you sit down and think, and it makes you sit down and read, which is, I think, if you look at work, it speaks for itself, and then you're kind of pushed to go and to maybe look at what was going on at the time, politically, and with society, and then, you know, because we live in 2020, we live in a totally different place now, you know, so our head's in a slightly different space. Take yourself back to that, you know, and look at the work and where she was working from. It's incredible. It's important work as well. Mm-hmm. In fact, of all of the ones that I've chosen, Richard and Joe's work probably are the most striking with regards to importance to me, anyway. There you go. That was me, number 4, Rob. You're struggling to pick number 5. You've changed number 5 about 10 times, I would imagine.
So this, I'm going to read out my honourable mentions.
Don't, because I have honourable mentions as well.
You can read them out. You can read yours out.
I dropped about 5. Well, I dropped more than that, but.
My honourable mentions as well include Helmut Newton.
Of course. Yeah.
Beautiful black and white fashion, big ladies.
I have a book of his Polaroids.
Yeah.
That's stunning, absolutely stunning.
Ed Burtynsky.
Lovely.
Do you know Ed?
Yeah, you're good. We're very similar, Rob, in a sense.
From Toronto.
Yeah.
8x10.
You told me about Ed about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nadav Kander.
Yeah, I don't want to speak too much because I did go to one of his opening shows at one point, but I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. Platon.
Okay. Great footballer. Is he? Played for France.
Chris Buck.
Oh, very close to me there, Rob. I like when you start getting close to my name.
Chris Buck.
Yeah.
Floria Sigismondi.
Yeah.
Who we've gone over.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah. Gregory Crewdson.
Of course.
One of my favorites. Yeah. Absolutely one of my favorites. But I think my number 5, put it in that top 5.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, like you say, in order.
Yeah.
Dan Winters. I think Dan's images are timeless.
Yeah.
I think he is a photographer in the truest sense of a photographer.
Yeah.
I think he covers, he started off in press.
Yeah.
Worked press and newspaper.
Yeah.
Built up from there, went into commercial, went into advertising.
Yeah.
He's an artist. He can draw. He does those crazy dioramas as well, those photo illustrations and stuff. His portraits are gorgeous. A master of light.
Yeah.
My number 5 is definitely Dan Winters.
Well, I have to say it's well chosen, to be honest with you. I suppose you could have went with any of those guys, but I think whenever if you're going for sort of somebody who's an all-round, and has worked through, and you look at the work and you're like,
black and white, color,
and there's a real
personal
journey.
work, paid work.
Yeah. And you can think of it if you were in any of those careers and you're looking to skip across, and you're looking for inspiration, that's probably where you would go. Honourable mentions, Rob? I don't know. There's, Dorothea Lange, Cindy Sherman.
I mean, we were just talking about Cindy Sherman last night.
Yeah, Cindy Sherman's work's incredible.
She's 66.
Unbelievable.
She's 66. She looks like she's 40.
She looks like she's 40. She looks younger than you, not saying so. In fact, hold on a second, if you don't mind. There's, Jacques Henry Lartigue.
I mean, going back to, remember, going back to the masters, the original black and white photographers, masters of Edward Weston and all those guys.
Well, Edward Weston was my first ever photographic exhibition in Ballymena, in Clotworthy House.
Original work?
Original work.
What year? When was this? Was this in the 90s?
25, yeah, it's a long time ago. And it was
That's amazing.
A guy called Alistair McCook took me to it, and Alistair was the reason I bought my first camera, and I tell him this all the time, and we had a stupid falling out for years, and now we're speaking again, and Alistair's an amazing photographer, bike photographer, but he took me to see Edward Weston, and I bought the little book.
Great.
And that was the start of it. You were just mesmerised. So, Weston was in there because it was my first ever. Jacques Henry Lartigue, probably one of my favourite photographs ever taken. It was Jacques Henry's racing car going this
with the
way.
wheels.
And the thing.
rolling shutter.
And I just think, and BB, the girl in the dock, she looks like she's on her phone, but she's not on her phone. His work is just exceptional. And then, you're into artists that, my peers, you're into people like Matthew Thompson. I know, people might think, put Matthew alongside, Jacques Henry Lartigue, but the thing is, it's about inspiration, you know what I mean? And making solid work, Ken O'Halloran, Noel Bowler, Rich Gilligan, any of those guys, Jill Quigley, they're all making really contemporary work. So I really struggled with this because I was like, do I completely ignore the masters, which I have done more or less? Maybe Burtynsky falls into that category for me because of the extraordinary work she has done and she continues to do. But yeah, people like Sally Mann. There's just a ton of people that are there. So my final one,
Number five,
okay, is I'm gonna click because so I can pronounce. It's I could get this wrong. I always say this wrong. Hideka Tonomura. Okay, born 1979 in Kobe, in Japan, and she is she famous? I suppose.
Is she the one that photographed her mother?
Yeah, and just if you go on, she's doing a thing now on Instagram, and it's she's photographing. It's called Shining Woman Project, and she's photographing women with cancer. And it's really tight. It's definitely a move for me. It's a move away from the work that she's been making, because it's like really tight headshots of women with cancer. Wow. Now, many followers, 1,909 followers, 283 posts. She's following 315. Sometimes you just come across somebody and you're just like, it's kind of jaw-droppingly good, and everything she does is just, for me, is on the button. It looks, and I don't know how to say this. It has the real feel of Japanese photography. It is all the stuff all the historical stuff that you get. But we know that I think that I don't know when Mamala was made. Was it 2012, something like that? It was a while ago, maybe earlier. Of course, there's a shock. The shock factor from that, and the hashtag for this is hashtag cancer beauty, so I like the way she has about refiguring work. She's obviously sitting down and putting together things that are not, it's not a shock value, it's something great. I think she's questioning my sensibilities in some respect. Mm-hmm. So if I go in and I have certain ways of thinking about stuff, and I look at it and I'm like, okay. And plus, whenever you go on and you can drop her a line, and no, I think it's done through Google Translate, but you can ask her stuff and she'll ask it back. So Hideka Tonomura, number 5. Now that was a pick.
Was that a hard one to get that 5th one?
Well, it was hard because there's other people in that work that I do find awfully interesting, and I can sit down. If you're feeling low or you're feeling cramped or any of the stuff you've just stood in Lego, it's somewhere you can go and put a kind of a bandage and stuff. And her work is without doubt. It's one of those ones that you find yourself sitting for 5 minutes, and Leah then comes up and she's cross because I've been there 45 to an hour. But I'm literally just looking at 3 images, and you're just doing a visual reading of them, and you don't know. And the thing is, like 57 people.
Aren't those just the best images that you can sit for an hour and look at an image and just look at the relationships between the foreground and the background and the subject to subject and everything that's going on, the emotions, and just transcribing it, like whittling it down to like the lowest denominator, and then blowing it back up and looking at it in a different way. I mean, I feel that way a lot about like Gary Winogrand, like it's street photography, 100%. Especially because there's so many elements, so many aspects within the frame. But like,
well, it was nearly Stephen Shore. That was where that's where I was at with the pick.
Stephen Shore, Todd, Hito, Jeff Wall. I mean, all that kind of stuff. Like maybe not so much Todd stuff, and
Jeff Wall.
Greg,
he's Canadian. Jeff Wall.
Yeah, Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, Gregory Crewdson's recent stuff, the past 15 years body of work that he has. I mean, obviously that stuff. I mean, you can read so much into that stuff, especially the exteriors that he shoots. They're just, you dive right into that 3-dimensional aspect of it.
Stephen Shore, I read something, did I read something or heard something about Stephen Shore and how he composes the image, and it was so complex. It was so complex. You were just like, I was like, really? And this was maybe 8 years ago, but whenever I read it, it changed my whole understanding of how we, because there's ways of.
But does that become a time factor thing then? If you're sitting there composing it?
Yeah, I think you shoot in large format, and it's like, obviously, I don't think it's a cost issue. For me, it would be a cost issue. I imagine not. The Great American Road Trip. I think it was probably just something. I think Alex Soth had said something about it at one point. Alex Soth. How do you start? The thing is, as well, Rob,
we're going to do our top 500 next.
I think we should do our top. The thing is, you have people shouting stuff at the screen. That they definitely wouldn't. That I wouldn't have chosen that or this. But the thing is, I think that if you have I always get told off in the kitchen because I never follow a recipe, and Leah won't eat any of my. She calls it stuch. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the recipe for? It's just a baseline.
I love just throwing stuff about. But the same with photography. If I'm looking at Hideka,
make it your own.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at Hideka and then you're looking at Devola, and you're kind of thinking. And then the thing is, Rob, whenever you start, like what you would want, what I would hope people do whenever they watch these are, that they go away. We've all got phones, and look up this stuff, and maybe just go on a bit of an adventure in Japanese photography. With Devola, look up. Look up tripping. Don't look up tripping. But it's like all that stuff is just an education. There's still, and yourself, you've been doing this a long time. I'm really late to the party, but I think that if you're stuck, and loads of people that I meet, are stuck, they can't make work, or they're, or students can't think of things. Go away and look at this for a few days, a few hours, whatever, and things start coming. Things start coming for sure. Like the Chroma by John is just mind-bogglingly good. Mind-bogglingly good. That's me, Rob. That's me all wrapped up.
That's great, Chris. That was a good top 5.
I'm happy, and the thing is, you have a few in there. I'm not at all au fait with, and even your honourable mentions. You know, this is stuff for me to go back and look them up, and then next time you say that to me, I'll say, oh yeah, of course I know his work.
And you know, just in the past 30 seconds, I've been thinking about, besides Paolo Roversi, didn't really touch on anybody doing alternative.
Yeah.
I mean, like the craze, the wet plate craze in the past 10 years, and who's the guy? Dan Reutner, the guy who turned his van into a camera and drives across the States and does these massive wet plates.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like that, besides that, he's pigeonholed himself into a really difficult technique and the way he's doing it, executing it. I mean, if he took a 35 millimeter, or better yet, just a 2.25 camera to shoot the same stuff, it would be as good.
No, 100%.
It is like his subject material, his composition is that good. But now he's like, you thought that was good? I'm going to tie one hand behind my back and I'm going to do it again.
He's playing the American anthem with his teeth on a guitar.
Yeah. And then more, again, like Albert Watson, another commercial advertising guy, who can take, you know, I've never been on an Albert Watson shoot. I've been on other big guys' shoots, and I can just imagine that Albert would do the same thing, where, you know, he's got Michael Jordan there for Nike, and he shoots a whole whack of stuff for Nike, and the Nike client walks out the door and he goes, hey, Michael, come on over here. Would you mind doing this? And he does a couple for himself, and those are the ones that he publishes in his own book. And those are the spectacular, like, not the other ones were spectacular, but, you know, like.
But do you not think we should, like, I always say this to people, I always show people my shit work, which there's a lot of, because I think, you know, people look at these artists, you know, and they'll see work and they'll be astounded by it, and it'll make some people feel insecure about their work. You know, they don't have the drive and the energy, and you know, there's so much. But I think actually, if you think how much is in the cutting room floor, you think how many, you know, if we could have conversations with these people, you know, if they were all sitting in, all those people were sitting in here and we were going to have a drink, you know, there would be many stories about things that didn't work out.
Absolutely.
Or that something started here and ended up, you know, halfway across the world, totally different idea. So I think,
but if you don't practice, if you don't go out there and hone, you know, what you're doing. Like, you think about, you know, when Gary Winogrand passed away. You know the story about when he passed away?
He's dead. No, I don't.
You heard about the story though, right?
No.
Like, they went into his apartment and there was like 10 garbage bags of 35 millimeter film.
No.
Unprocessed.
He was chucking them out?
No, he hadn't gotten around to processing them yet. I mean, that's how much the guy shot, prolific.
Yeah.
And you think about, what was her name? Vivian Meyer.
Yeah, Jesus.
You know, where this girl would go out on her spare time every day, walking around, taking photographs.
But you don't think some of that, like, I think there's something beautifully mental healthy about some of this stuff. You know, it's like, there's a drive and need. You know, there's something beyond the norm. You know, and I'm not saying it in a negative sense. No. I think whenever you have that, you know, I have it at the minute with, like, I feel like I said this, I was chatting to Leah the other night, I feel like I'm ready for a change. I'm ready for something different. I feel like I'm in a barrel and I really want to go over Niagara Falls with my work. I want to do something completely, I want to start challenging myself again, you know, with regards to making images. And it's
puppy photography or puppy photography?
Puppy would be nice, actually. Rob, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like my friend Jonathan, you know, he does stuff with prisoners. So he did stuff with prisoners, and the work is immense, and it's intelligent, and it's great, and it's really important, you know. And you know, I was, you know, whenever it kind of was wrapping up, I think there was 3 stages to it, and I said, well, you looking, I can't wait to make new work. And I said, what do you want to make it on? And his face went, it just like, snakes. I want to make work on snakes. And I was like, you know, but it's just, you know, where does that, but the excitement, you know, the joy, it was just like, because it's something completely different, you know what I mean? And I think the puppy stuff, yeah, it kind of is that. It's kind of a metaphorical puppy.
What's the last thing you would ever expect yourself to shoot?
What would be the last thing? God, Rob. I've shot so much stuff.
Yeah.
So
but
much,
I mean,
so much
you know,
bad
like
stuff.
commercially, you've shot weddings.
Puppies, yeah,
You've
geez.
shot
yeah.
film, TV.
Yeah.
You've shot commercial work.
All very,
outside of
all
baby
very,
photography,
all very loose.
photography, where would you go?
Well, if you could put a contemporary spin on it, you know, you know, and the thing is, we haven't even talked about, there are people out there, there are young people out there, because we're not young, who are making work which is, you know, is brand new, you know, and we probably don't even know about it. You know what I mean? It's probably not in our thoughts. Yeah. So I think, you know, puppy photography, baby photography, I always find it difficult to try and come up with, because I think I am good at putting, you know, getting a twist on something. You know, I'm sure there is the history of puppy photography. I'm sure there's something very interesting. I'm sure there's a murder in there.
Even like, you know, maybe not puppy photography, but if you were to go out and reinvent yourself as a nouveau Jewish woman, I'm going to do architecture photography like it never been. So graphic, detail-oriented architectural photography.
But I would need
it's got to speak to you.
Yeah.
It's got to be your thing.
But the thing is, and what speaks to me is whenever this is where it all comes from.
Gursky.
Yeah.
Like, you know, shooting the face-on of an apartment building. Yeah. You know,
it's one of the top 100 iconic images.
He was in my honourable mentions, but I didn't write him down.
I think that you know, I always say this. I'm not so much into the surface of stuff. Who was it said this? Who do I always quote? God, my head's away with it. Ballad of Sexual.
Who?
Oh. Good Lord. I'd just like to say that I have a 1.5-year-old child, and I've been up since 4:30. And the fact that it's earlier than 4:30, I've been up since 4:10. This now to me is 7 o'clock at night.
So you're due for a beer.
Jesus, due for a beer.
I think maybe on that note then, Chris.
God, no, Rob, I don't have to. No, people, write your answers in a postcard and send them to me. I'm really, what I'm interested in is not the surf. I'm not really worried about the aesthetic, unless somebody's paying me to create an aesthetic, and even then I find that difficult, as you know. I'm interested in the connections and moments and all that stuff. I'm not so worried by the outcome. You know, if there were a camera that could record feelings, I suppose. Well, in a different sense.
Okay, so you did your traveler's thing.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that?
19 years.
Have you milked it?
Nah.
Is there still something there?
I think, is there something there for me? I don't know if there's something there for me, Rob, to be honest with you. It's now changed into...
Could you do something, not travelers, but in that same sort of context?
No,
with politicians.
Yeah, with my...
follow around Arlene Foster for 19 years.
I would just want to trip them up. I would imagine them put pies in their face. Now, with the traveller stuff, I'll say this because it's really important. I am making new traveller work. Now, it's with the family, but it's appropriated work. It's their work. So I'm doing stuff. I'm taking their work and making new work out of that. Okay, so I'm kind of stepping back from taking the photographs to making the photographs, if that makes sense. So it's going to be slightly more multimedia. And it is still the same message. It's still stop being fucking racist, everybody, about travellers. That's what the message is, essentially. But the work's definitely new, and that's why the John Davola thing for me is so interesting at the minute, because I would say I definitely am taking a pinch of that, and a pinch of this and a pinch of that and putting it together to challenge myself, and that's kind of the drop I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember that bloody female photograph, black eye, boyfriend beat her up. I can't believe I don't know this. This is really. This is making me worry that there's something wrong with my brain now. Now I've thrown it onto you. Now you look bad as well.
Trying to picture.
I talk about every single class She's...
Anyhow.
We have to edit this bit out, because I can't be looking like a tit.
I think for me, coming out of this lockdown, I think where I'd like to go is back down the Paolo Roversi sort of avenue. I'd like to do more stuff like that and not worry about my focus, not worry about my shutter speed. Just think about the emotion that you're capturing.
But you do that. You do all the other stuff so seamlessly.
What's that?
You do the focus. You do the because you're a professional photographer. You do that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know, and that's why it's hard to let go.
No, I know.
It's hard. Yeah. It's really, really hard. I mean, I see people come in here and rent the studio and shoot, stuff that just, it just comes. Like they just point the camera in a direction and they just take a shot and it looks great. And I go, how did they do that? Like, why? Like, they've shot it at 1/5 of a second and it's slightly blue and it's slightly soft, but the emotion is so fantastic. I need to get sort of back into that creative end of things. I can make everything nice and static and everything nice and sharp, but...
See, I'm at the other end. Nan Goldin.
Yes.
I can't believe. Apologies, Nan.
Again, we talked about her last night.
Yeah, geez, I talk. She's in my head a lot because and she holidays in Ireland apparently. Donegal.
Oh, is she?
Yep, apparently so. Somebody told me that a while back.
You're gonna go stalk her?
Did you see me jiggling? Do you know what that means, Rob? Means the coffee's worked its way.
Means that chair's noisy on that microphone.
As Patrick would know, whenever I go this, he's like, Dad, it's worked its way through, hasn't it? Well, I'm going to have to go to the toilet.
On that note, thank you very much, everybody. We'll be coming back with more of this.
More of this.
In weeks.
Dun, dun, dun.